All right, hello everyone. This video will be coming to you on May 10th, Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I wanted to bring you this video to give you a brief update and discussion on PPP loan forgiveness. And now that funding is beginning to come out and be received by businesses, and with that additional guidance is coming out, we want to help prepare you for the forgiveness process, which will be upon us sooner than any of us would like. Note, as always, that this video is not a legal opinion. It's just our perspective and understanding based on the information we're being given that we want to share with you at this time.
So we're going to break the video down into two areas, basically what we know or what updates we know, and then kind of things that are still out there or what we don't know. So let's start off with what we do know. There has been updates that have came out in information being uncovered in the text. And as much as we've been telling you to go, all our clients to go to the U.S. Treasury site, the actual tax law code by Congress has been what we've looked at and have clarified some of the things. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to define the loan forgiveness in 4 particular areas: payroll cost, mortgage interest, rent, and utilities. So, we'll start off with Patrick going to give us the payroll cost updates.
Sure. There haven't been a lot of changes to payroll costs from what we've been talking about in previous videos and communications. Payroll costs are defined as gross wages paid to employees, company paid insurance, and company paid retirement benefits, as well as company paid state taxes. That would be your state unemployment tax and other state and local taxes paid by the company, which apply to some states but not to others. Things to keep in mind, as before, the key omissions that you do not get to count in your payroll costs are your workers' compensation insurance, your federal unemployment tax, and the company's match of Social Security and Medicare. So as we've said in the past, just remember, when you're calculating your payroll for forgiveness, you cannot just take what you're paying out in payroll for each payroll run. You have to remember to remove those amounts, or you'll be expecting to have more cost than they're actually going to let you take. On the next stage, mortgage interest. Can you share our updates on that?
Yeah, so let's combine mortgage interest and rent. One of the things we've been saying in our videos is we're not sure if the interest is going to be just for your building or if you possess an office, or the rent. But one of the key updates in the code is they specifically stated, and you're going to see in the email that we send with the letter that's highlighted, it says for real estate and personal property tax. Personal property taxes are loans that are secured by equipment, furniture, fixtures, vehicles. That's a big one for a lot of our clients. For the people that have mortgages on them or loans, remember that only the interest portion of the payments is going to be subject to forgiveness. One of the key things when we talk about this stuff and any expenses, we want you guys to know that if these loans or these rental agreements or lease agreements were not in place as of February 15th of 2020, you cannot count those. So these loans had to have been put in place by February 15th of 2020 in order to count. The rent for those things are the same. Rents and leases, real estate and personal property leases, and after February 15th. So that's mainly the update. Keynote for that, again, is personal property tax firms. This is the big one that we have been kind of going back and forth on, and it's what is the definition of utilities? Patrick, they've updated that information, so you want to go through that part?
Sure. Utilities, as we expected, electric and gas, water and sewer are included. Those are the obvious options. The code has confirmed that telephone and internet service will both count. That was one of the ones in the past who said we were on the fence. We didn't have clear guidance. That has been confirmed. They've come out and said straight up those count. They also added a category under utilities for transportation, which quite frankly has us a little confused as to what exactly they could mean putting transportation under utilities. So that's something we're requesting additional clarification, continuing to dig into it and trying to find out what that means. It's something as we find out, we will continue to update you. And with all these utilities services, as with the mortgages and the rental agreements that Jiten mentioned, the services have to have been in place by February 15th. If it's a new service that you established after that date, it does not count for the forgiveness calculation. So that covers the qualified expenses and the updates that we have on that. There have also been some updates to the definition of the forgiveness coverage period as far as what expenses and what time frame they can be allowed to clarify. Jiten, you want to share our update there?
Yes, one of the things we've always talked about is the 8-week period, 8-week period. For the people who've called in and gotten our spreadsheet, we've helped you fill in the date with the loan amount with the 8-week period. That is going to be a key calculation going for the forgiveness portion of the loan. The code defines the 8-week period starting at the orientation of the loan. But if you go into the frequently asked questions on the U.S. Treasury site, it says from the date of first disbursement. So if you received your loan on April the 1st, your first week ends on the 8th, then the 15th, and then the 22nd, and so on and so forth. One of the things the code did say, and we've talked about this, is are you going to be able to include payments prior to the loan proceeds being distributed to your bank? What we have noticed, or what we think, is you're only going to be able to take the 8 weeks after you get the loan. So what we want to make sure is people, need to be careful on those dates. And what we suspect is you're just going to be able to turn in 2 months worth of utilities, 2 months worth of mortgage payments, mortgage payment interest, rents, and utilities. So be careful with that, because if you paid for a payment late, then you may need to make sure that those payments are included, or you may need to pay one early. But what we think is a safe harbor, you probably need to only include 2 months worth of those payments. That is what we know now.
Absolutely.
So one of the things is, now what we'd like to do is go over the things that we don't know, and we've talked about that. I'm going to go through 2 or 3 of these, and then Patrick can go from there. Is the utilities. We saw transportation for the first time. We don't know what that means. So once that guidance comes out, we'll get with you. We don't know how the time of service date versus bill date for utilities and things like that are going to be defined. But our answer to that is just use common sense. Don't turn in more than 2 months worth of utilities, rents, mortgage payments, loan payments. The interesting part is personal property. Personal property, if you think about it, when you pay personal property tax returns, you pay it on your furniture, your fixture, and equipment, and then you're also paying personal property taxes directly to your county for your vehicles and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see if they let you include all of that, or there's any omissions. Right now, we think that they're going to allow it all because of the way they describe personal property tax returns on the code. Patrick, you want to talk about the bonuses, the increases, and then also the how and when to apply for forgiveness?
Sure. Yeah, that's one of the other things that we're not sure. One of the questions that we've gotten frequently is, if you're running short on the total payroll expenses, can you give a bonus to employees and count that towards your payroll expenses for applying for forgiveness for the loan? That we're not sure yet. That's one of those things they haven't given us clear guidance on. So we're still trying to get that information. And as it comes in, we will definitely update you, because that is a big one. And then how and when the forgiveness will be applied for. We're in constant contact with the banks. The banks don't know yet as of our last communications with them. So no one really knows how this whole process is going to work in terms of applying for forgiveness. As always, a recommendation right now is just document, document, document. Save everything. All your receipts, all your payroll summaries, save even your time cards. You never know what they're going to ask for. And each bank is probably going to be a little bit different on what they want. So save everything, track everything as completely and thoroughly as you can. And as we've discussed, use separate bank account for the PPP loan funds, if at all possible, so you have that actual transaction flow for the money coming in and the money going out. That will really help and streamline your documentation when you go to apply for this forgiveness once we know what it is. We're hoping that will come out in the next couple of weeks, as we've had some people who have had the money for between 1 and 2 weeks at this point. So they've got maybe 6 more weeks until we're going to start running into the process of people needing to apply for forgiveness. So they're going to have to be coming out with some clarification on that pretty quick.
One of the things on top of that is you guys will see an email blast. What Patrick and I have done is highlighted the, I think it's 1107 or 1106 forgiveness clause in the actual CARES bill. You will see the documentations that the Congress is suggesting that you will serve. One of the things I will tell you is people have been asking us how will they be calculating payroll and all that. We have some guidance on that, but look for that in the future. But two things that I wanted to bring up when he was talking about. Number one, remember that there's no guidance that says you must pay expenses out of the PPP loan account or that. So for the people that have already talked to us and the people looking on the schedule to get on, what we've done is created an Excel spreadsheet so that you can track those expenses, but almost treat your PPP loan account as a construction draw. So what you're going to do is submit the expenses within the 8-week period to this account and draw it into your operating account. So please run your businesses as normal and then build your forgiveness package through, like, let's say 6, 8, 10, 12 draw requests from your payroll account. One other thing before we go to the upcoming, and Patrick goes, interesting news came out about the IRS release a couple days ago. Congress has said that this loan forgiveness will not be counted as income, which sounded too good to be true. And the IRS came out and said, well, as far as they take it, their stance right now is whatever you've given forgiven on the loan, you will not be able to take those expenses on your tax return. We're hoping that Congress kind of balks at that and changes it over, but as it stands today, the IRS is saying if you were forgiven $70,000 worth of payroll and $10,000 worth of other costs, that $80,000 is not going to be deductible on your tax return. Therefore, it is taxable in kind of a catch-22 sort of way. So
basically backdoor taxable. Instead of showing it as income and taking the expense, you're not showing the income, but you're not taking the expense. At the end of the day, it's the exact same result.
yeah.
So there have been some mutterings out of Congress that we've seen where congressmen on both sides of the aisle are saying this is not the way we want it to be. It just remains to be seen whether they'll actually pass a law that changes that, because it sounds like that's what it's going to take at this point. The IRS is not backing down on their initial stance. So we'll see what happens.
And then just if you guys haven't, call us, set up a 15-20 minute appointment with us virtually so that we can get you these spreadsheets as soon as you get the money, so we can kind of help you guys get ready or prepare for forgiveness. If you can, please email us your first disbursement date and loan amount. We're creating a spreadsheet so that we can kind of schedule appointments for clients 5, 6, 7 weeks out so they're prepared at the end. Patrick, going to go over things that are upcoming discussions or things that we've had slated to come out in the next 2 to 3 weeks so that we can have our next video or blast.
Absolutely, yes. We're going to continue doing these videos. Thank you for the feedback you all have been providing us. We're glad they've been helpful. We hope they continue to be so. If there are any topics that you would like discussed, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to take them under advisement and put videos out on them as well. But we do have a few that we've identified as key areas that we need to discuss in depth that are going to take 5-10 minutes just on their own to go over. So the next few topics we're going to be discussing. Big one is employee concerns. That's one we've been getting a lot of questions on. So what happens to your loan forgiveness if the number of your employees is reduced? Or if once you get the loan, you're not paying the same rate to your employees that you were previously. The hours and salary are still cut down from what they were a year ago or even 3 months ago. So we're going to be discussing that. And we're also going to be discussing dealing with employees that decline to come off of unemployment. That's something that we've been seeing, where employer tries to recall employees so that they're back up to full employment once they get their PPP money, and the employee is declining because they're receiving as much or more on unemployment and not having to work. So that's something we'll be discussing. There's been some guidance released on that, and hopefully more as well by the time we do that video.
Patrick, there was, I think, question number 40, somewhere between 40 and 45, discusses writing the documents, documenting
Yes.
how you call clients back. So pay attention to that on the frequently asked questions on the U.S. Treasury site.
Yep, they have discussed that some, and we'll be going in that in depth when we do that video as well. Another video, documentation of what will be required for loan forgiveness. As soon as that information and guidance comes out, we will put out a video on that. And then the understanding the transportation costs and the other questions that we discussed earlier that we don't know. As we get answers, we'll combine a few of those and put videos out on those, explaining them as the information comes to us. But that is our plan for the next couple of weeks. As I mentioned, if you have any questions, either on this, those items, or anything else, please feel free to send them to us. I'm always happy to help.
And closing out, just again, happy Mother's Day to all the families and moms out there. I hope you guys are staying sane, doing homeschooling. We appreciate all of that in our office and everywhere else. Stay calm and enjoy Mother's Day. Thank you.
Have a great week, everyone.